It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z Garcia.
Hey folks, today we are taking a look at the adorable My Happy Farm. In this one, you are going to be trying to feed your animals, and you are going to be doing that by growing crops, basically, and getting the right cards at the right time. It's a fairly quick, neat little game with a good amount of choice going on in it. Let me show you an overview of how the game works, and then I'll tell you if I think it's a really good one. Here we go. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to be given a farm board, is going to be given one of each animal, which is made up of 2 cards, the front and the rear there, and the animal starts on the sad side with the -3 up here, because they have not been fed. Each player is also given 2 coins, and they are given 2 crop cards, and you are ready to begin. The objective of the game is to feed your animals and have the happiest, longest animals possible. And you are going to be doing that by buying crops, planting crops, harvesting them, and then using crops to buy these cards and feed the animals. That represents feeding the animals themselves. And so on your turn, each player on their turn is going to, first of all, draw a crop card added to their hand. And then they are going to advance any crops that they have planted already, but I will get to that because we start with none here. And then you get 2 actions. You have a player aid, which is here. And so on the player aid there, it tells you everything that you can do. And so the options are fairly straightforward. You can buy crops. You can buy from here. You could even buy the top one if you wanted to, but basically each one you buy is a single coin. And you can buy as many as you'd like. As soon as you buy one, you replenish them. And so I could pay a coin and buy this one, add it to my hand, and then replenish it. And that could be one of my actions. Again, I can buy as many as I want to, still for 1 action. My second option is planting crops. I can look at my hand of crops here, and I could plant some. Now, the options here are you can plant one of anything, and you plant it down here in the spring. You can plant 2 different ones, so I could plant both of these. Or you could plant 3 of the same, which I do not have, but if I had another one of these, then I could plant all 3. And so that could be my action. My second action could be planting. By the way, you are not allowed to take the same action twice, so I could not plant and then plant again. But I could have purchased crops and then planted some of them, okay? So let's leave a couple of crops out there for demonstration. All right. My next option would be harvesting crops. You can harvest crops from the summer. And by the way, when it's the beginning of my turn, as I said, I would draw one of these crop cards and then everything advances. So these would move up here on my next turn. So I could harvest, which I can do from here, the summer, or up here in the autumn. And from the summer, I can only take these and carrots. And from the autumn, I could harvest everything. And so if I wanted to harvest now, I could, and this was the situation, I could take this one, and then I would put it in my barn, face up. That is something I have harvested. This I would not be able to take because I need it to be all the way up here. It takes a little longer for it to grow. So I could do that. Or if I waited a turn, then I could harvest this one. Okay. My next option could be selling crops. That would be one of my actions. I can sell as many as I want to, and when I sell crops, then I get the value that is printed on the card there. So in this case, if I sold this, I could get 2 coins for it. If I sold this, I get a whopping 5 coins for that one. All right. So let's say I have both of those harvested. My next option could be feeding the animals, which I'll explain in 1 second. And then last option is taking a coin from the bank. Very simple. So, feeding animals is also fairly straightforward. You need to have the ingredients, basically, in your barn already harvested, and then down here on all of these cards is the required formula that you must give up in order to feed that animal. So, let's say I want to feed my cow. Well, I need to have 2 of the grain here and 1 of the clover symbol there, and the radish, I guess is what that is. And so I could give all of that up, assuming I have it in the barn. And the barn does have a limit of 6 harvested crops on it. And then I could take this card and give it to the cow. Same thing here for the pig. Some of the cards do have a question mark, which means anything. And the carrot there. The sheep has its own combination, and so on. And so each card has up here the number of points that it is worth, that you will be scoring at the end of the game. So let's say I am going to be spending, let's assume I had a carrot. Let's grab a carrot here. And let's say I harvested one, I planted it, I harvested it, and I had it in my barn. And on my turn, as one action, I could say, okay, I'm feeding my rabbit. I am going to give up a carrot. I am going to give up that clover. And I am going to put those in the discard pile and grab this card and feed it to my rabbit here. When you feed an animal for the first time, you are going to take that first card and flip it over. There's no longer a -3 there because they've been fed. And you just stick it in between the other cards. So yes, as you feed the animals, they get longer and longer. It's pretty funny looking critters. And that's basically it. That is the objective, ultimately, of the game. Feeding each animal as much as you can before the game is over. And the game will be over when we run out of these cards here. Then everybody gets one more turn once the deck is gone. And then we score. You are going to lose 3 victory points for any animal you did not feed at all. You are going to score the points on the cards for the animals that you did feed. And then there's also a bonus 3 points for each animal type if you have the longest on the, the best fed, basically, on the table. So let's say I fed my rabbit 3 times and no one else did 3. I would get a bonus 3 points on top of whatever my score is on the table. Highest score is the winner of the game. And that's basically my happy farm. So I guess my biggest negative, which is not really much of a negative, I just figured I'd get it out of the way first, is that this game I'm not sure is... I wonder if it's going to have a hard time finding an audience. The game is very cute, but it's not really a kid's game, and it looks like one. It's a game. It's a light strategy game. There are choices. Every turn you have to consider those choices, because you have just 2 of them, or you will lose the game if you waste your actions. Yet, I guess I have a hard time seeing hardcore Euro gamers playing this one, So hopefully it will find an audience and it will do well, because the game is good. It's a nice light strategy card game that has interesting aspects in it. The money management in it, that's neat. I like the idea of the growing crops, and when something's at the very top, if you don't harvest it, then and the next turn, everything moves up, then it'll be wasted. It just spoils. So I like that. You really need to be careful about letting that happen or happen too often. The whole package really has a clean design to it. It's very well put together. I guess my one other thing I'm not a huge fan of, but I think it's more of a personal taste, is that by the end of the game, I really didn't feel like I had done a lot. You ultimately really just buy a few of those animal feeding cards, like 5 maybe. So you buy the stuff and you plant it and you wait and you harvest it and you store it and then you finally buy the thing. So it's this, get this to get that, to get that, to finally get something. I find that to be a little slow for my taste, or, at least I just didn't feel like I did enough. But I think that's my personal taste, and it's certainly not something I would hold against the design. The design does that well. And I do like the planting and the growing the things and harvesting it. I think if you're someone who enjoys those farming video games that have been very popular in the past, they still might be, then this is something you would like, I think. So My Happy Farm is a neat, light strategy game. I would recommend it. If you are someone who enjoys kind of managing your own little world, but you like a little competition, then this is something you're going to like, because those cards are face up out there, and if you're ready to buy something, you got to be careful someone doesn't buy it out from under you, you know. So thumbs up from me. My Happy Farm, a nice light strategy game that I think is going to go over well if you enjoy this sort of style of game, you know, building up your little engine and getting everything done. So check it out, My Happy Farm.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.